Hi there, this is Sherry from WholeFoodsFamily.com. This is the first video in a series called First Steps to Becoming a Whole Foods Family. In this first video, we're going to talk about sugar and why we can make a lateral shift in the quality of the sugar that we choose to actually increase the nutritional density of our diet, and why that's important. So let's begin with white sugar. What's the big deal about white sugar anyways? Well, basically, white sugar is a processed food product that originally comes from the sugarcane and sometimes beets, that basically has had the vitamins and the minerals all removed from it. Depending on the source and depending on the place where it's manufactured, there's different ways that sugar is actually made to be white. In some cases it's bleach, sulfur dioxide, and there's about 5 or 6 other possibilities. The thing that people usually don't know about sugar, refined sugar, is that because all the minerals are actually not occurring in the sugar anymore, in the process of metabolism, you actually have to use your body's own stores of vitamins and minerals to metabolize the sugar. So we often think of white sugar as being an empty calorie, but actually it puts us in a deficit because we have to use the minerals in our own body just to metabolize it. The next thing that people would use that is a refined sugar is brown sugar. And brown sugar is basically white sugar with more molasses added back in, and which adds color and some minerals, but again, it's nothing compared to sugar in its whole form. So if we compare a sugar in its natural form, there's actually 5 times as many minerals in a whole cane sugar that's unrefined compared to brown sugar. But what's even more extreme is there's 50 times more minerals in an organic unrefined cane sugar, and this is an example, compared to white sugar. So that's a huge difference, 50 times more minerals in a natural whole cane sugar than a white sugar. Super important, especially when we're talking about our children and their growing bodies, or women that are pregnant, or people who are sick and who really need a lot of nutrition. It's really important that we optimize as much nutrition as we can get. So instead of saying that we're not going to have sugar at all, a much easier way of looking at it and making a simpler shift in our life is to just upgrade the quality of the sugar and the sweeteners that we already have in our diet. So let's talk a little bit about unrefined sugar. So basically what happens is the sugar cane comes in, it looks like almost like a piece of bamboo. It's a long stick. And what happens is the juice is actually extracted from the cane, and once the juice is extracted, it's basically boiled it's refined at a very, I shouldn't even say refined, it's not refined. It's extracted, that's the word. It's extracted from the cane as a juice, and then the juice is at a low temperature, basically like distilled into the sugar. So it's like the solid part. The water is evaporated basically. In a whole sugar, such as like this one is panela, which is the Colombian name for rapadura. Rapadura is the traditional name for sugar that comes from the cane and is completely unrefined. So this is this particular brand is all handmade by people, and it's fair trade, and it's a brand called Panela. And then the other is the other rapadura would come from another company called Rapunzel, and there's probably some other ones out there. But those are 2 examples of an unrefined cane sugar. This one here, oftentimes you can go to an organic food store and find a sugar that looks like, sort of more like white sugar. They're much more comparable. But the process is not as extreme as sugar. There's no like whitening process that's happened to this, but you can tell that a lot of the nutrients have been taken out of it. The molasses has been separated from it, and then we get a product like this, which is an unsulfured blackstrap molasses. This is not ideal of a sugar. If you're going to be baking and you want to make the most nutritionally dense and rich, like cookies or cake, it's still better to use an unrefined cane sugar because you're going to have way more minerals. It's probably going to be comparable. The difference between brown sugar, you're going to have at least 5 times as many minerals in your if you use unrefined cane sugar versus this is organic again, but it's refined, and you can tell because it's it's very crystallized. You can see that the unrefined sugar is more like a powder, and that's sort of one of the ways that you can tell the difference. If you go to the organic food store, there's another kind of sugar called sucanat, and it also looks very much like a powder, closer to the color as this one. Again, it's the next least refined sugar. I don't actually have any sucanat on me, but what happens is they separate the molasses from it, but then they add it back. And so the reason that they do that is to create a more consistent product. Whereas with the raw cane sugar, the unrefined cane sugar, you're going to find a bit of a difference depending on the soil and the weather conditions. A couple other alternatives that you can use, or I should say a little bit more about blackstrap molasses. So blackstrap molasses is a third boil, and it's more of a, it's a denser type of, like a syrupy texture, and it has a very intense molasses flavor that most people recognize from like gingerbread cookies. When you purchase it, it's best to purchase organic because, again, it's a concentrated product. So if you are not purchasing it organic, you're going to be concentrating any of the chemicals that were used in, or pesticides that were used in the growing of the cane. And also, they don't add, the unsulfured versions, the organic ones, don't add sulfur to the molasses, which is added as a preservative and not necessary. Another alternative for baking is molasses, and maple syrup is another alternative for baking. It's a lot more expensive, so people tend to shy away from it. If you're going to do a lot more baking, it's probably better to use the unrefined cane sugar. But if you enjoy the molasses flavor and you want it to be more pourable, and you're looking for another really good quality, wholesome and organic sweetener, you can get organic maple syrup. And one of the reasons why it's really important to buy organic maple syrup is because if you don't, then you can pretty much guarantee that formaldehyde will be used in the process to get the maple syrup from the tree. So that's one of the reasons why you want to do organic maple syrup. And there's 3 grades of organic maple syrup, and I tend to buy the number 3. And the reason I do that is because it, you can see that from the darker flavor, it actually has more minerals than the other 2. So again, the more minerals, the better. So that's why we use number 3 dark maple syrup in our house. And then finally, rice syrup is another alternative that you can use in baking. It's not quite as sweet as the other sweeteners. It has a low glycemic index, so for people that are concerned about blood sugar issues, it's another good solution. It's very sticky. It more or less has the texture of molasses. So that's pretty much it for the first video in the series, First Steps to Becoming a Whole Foods Family. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you at the next video.